I'd like to talk to you about your art, but I understand that in the genesis of you as a person, you received some good advice from your father that you've followed all your life. What was that advice?
Well, first of all, he said there are two people in this world, the I cans and the I can'ts. But more important than that, it's when he said, I pass this way but once, and any good thing, let me say it now, or do it now, for I pass this way just once.
How did you begin your interest in art? Where did that come from?
Oh, that's a long story. When I was a little boy, we used to take chalk and draw in the streets of Johannesburg. And there was no fancy computers in those days, and the people used to sit on the verandas and have a drink at 5 and they had a competition with all the kids in the street, and you would get a penny if you won. So the penny went around, and I was very lucky. I got the penny a couple of times.
Basil's creative talent certainly flourished in Johannesburg over the years, winning the Best British Coronation Display Award for the whole of the Commonwealth. His prize was to work mainly at Harrods in London, but also Galeries Lafayette in Paris and the Bijenkorf in Amsterdam for a few years. Over the same period, Wendy was working as a dress designer at a fashion house in Regent Street.
We both lived in London, but we never ever met.
In the same street in Earl's Court at the Overseas Visitors Club, and we never set eyes on each other. Then back from London, we met in Johannesburg at the same company on the same day. We started working. Basil in store planning and me in advertising. From the get-go, I think because we are both creative people, there was an instant attraction, and 2 years later we were married in 1962. So Basil, what did you feel when you first met me at the Belfast?
Well, I was surprised, but I could see there was some attraction, a fantastic attraction.
So you fancied me?
Oh, of course I fancied you.
From the get-go. On a weekend to the coast, we designed our first home on the beach. Basil had purchased a piece of land. We then drew the plans, had them passed, and quickly built the house. Our lives together was always a creative adventure. We built and renovated a total of 10 homes. Our 3 children were born in different homes in different suburbs. And so we continued on our artistic adventure, creative adventure, I should say. Our children gave us so much pleasure, as they did both sets of grandparents. They enjoyed their visits to our different homes and loved being with the children. Our last home in South Africa was the White House. We built it on our block of land where we had lived for 20 years with the previous home, and where the boys had built their own cottage when they were at school. We spent 10 wonderful years in the White House, looking out the windows on the 3rd level at the trees and the birds nesting, We enjoyed those years so much. We also had ran a business, and had an art studio on the top floor. It was such a special time in our lives. Our children weren't too far away and often visited, and as did our first grandchild, Kiara, a little girl, before we emigrated to Australia. The one home we were especially sad to leave was our home in the Drakensberg, our holiday retreat. For 20 years, we spent a weekend there every month, and so many holidays with all the family. It was such a pleasure spot. Because Torben had been at the Drakensberg Boys Choir School in the mountains, this was the reason why we were all so fond of being in the mountains. Bougainvillea, originally, the holiday retreat, was a small house which Basil and the boys modernized. And then they proceeded to build a thatched boma and a cottage for extra accommodation. We enjoyed having family there, and especially my mother, who originally purchased the cottage, the house. So ultimately, we had her service in the mountains when she died, and we scattered her ashes there, as we did later with my father's ashes. So that was Gran Edna and Grandpa Victor. Throughout our marriage, we always painted and had several exhibitions. Basil excelling at his African animals and birds, and me at my African people. My brother started a boutique called Calabash. So I traveled to several of the African provinces, states, and designed clothing, Zulu with a Zulu flair or a Xhosa flair, all the different tribes, and these went into my brother's Calabash boutiques. As a family, it took us 5+ years to apply for visas and immigrate to Australia. It was such a long process, unbelievably long. So many trips to Pretoria, so many applications to fill in. Our 3 children immigrated a couple of years before we did, and as grandparents, we were in a queue to get into Australia 10 years long. So, while our children were here and new grandchildren being born, we visited for many years. And then ultimately, a contributory grandparent visa came about. And for 50,000, we became Australian citizens. Our first home, we applied to Canberra to purchase before we had permanent residency. And then when we became citizens, we were given our certificates by Peter Dutton. From the time we arrived in Australia and we were here permanently, it felt like we had come home. A very special feeling.
Basil Gay is an extraordinary man. Ever cheerful and positive, his art is simply captivating. And through it, he has been able to shine a light on our history. He is unique, and this is perhaps best displayed by this daily gardening ritual.
I did the sculptures after meeting Nelson Mandela at the Premium Diamond Mine.
Throughout his home there are many sculptures created by Basil, but today we'd like to shine a light on his painting, and particularly the charge of the 800 Light Horsemen and associated works. Baz, the 800 Light Horsemen, how did you do that?
Well, the only method that I know of is when you do each individual horse, cut them all out of paper, and then you can move each one individually to get the action and the movement.
Behind me, the Soldiers Memorial Hall here at Ipswich, where a series of paintings by Basil Gay depicting the legend of the light horse is displayed.
Basil and I were commissioned by the Anzac Day Commemoration Committee to illustrate the legend of the light horse, to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the charge of the light horse at Beersheba. Thanks to Peter Dutton, who showed our book to John Howard, who says, "Congratulations, this is a wonderful work." John Howard.
I spoke with Peter Dutton, friend of Basil and Wendy's and Minister of Home Affairs, on how art best reflects a nation's identity and culture.
Well, I don't think you can properly complete the picture without making sure that firstly it's captured in an accurate way, and that people have access to that piece of work in Basil's case, which I think would connect with a young child, a young school child, in a way that other depictions may not. So art's incredibly important in making sure that we can have that living history and make sure that young people continue to understand those very significant battles that shaped a nation and shaped the people and really fed into the culture in the modern era. The reality is that much of that psyche was shaped around war, around depression, around recovery, and Basil and Wendy have really captured that in a way that few other people have. So art is particularly important, but the way in which it's captured and the message is conveyed is as important. And Basil and Wendy are wonderful Australians, and they've been able to do their country a great service through their art and through the passion that they have for this country and for life.
And there is Basil's Charge of the Light Horse, a painting of 800 light horsemen charging at Beersheba. The painting was 2 meters by 1 meter. And then, sadly, at the end of the war, the horse I left behind. So many horses, all the horses in fact, were left behind. And then we say, we give thanks, we will remember them, all those soldiers who didn't return, all those last horsemen. This is actually the teacher's copy that is in all the schools and libraries, and it contains a CD of projects for the children, and the set comes with 10 books for the children along with the teacher's copy.
You can see the passion in his artwork, and obviously he's got a natural style and a great natural instinct, but he chooses subject matters which have particular significance, and he has a real capacity to convey the emotion through his art, and I think it would have a big impact, particularly on school children, when they hear the message and see the enthusiasm in his style and the way in which he presents his work.
Could you give us 3 words that describe maybe the essence and character of both Basil and Wendy?
I think the first word is patriotic, the second word is passion, and the third word is decency.
Basil and Wendy's passion is palpable. Their joy of life is exhilarating. Their genuine love and appreciation of each other is inspiring.
If I saw Basil as an animal, I would see him as a lion. He has this gregarious attitude. And in astrology, he presents as a lion, Leo the lion. This loud, gregarious personality.
Wendy, I see you as a hummingbird. You hum beautifully, you sing nicely, and you never shout. I loved you very much.
And you know, both being creative, we've enjoyed every minute of our 60 years together, honestly.
Now, could each of you tell me what you love about the other person?
I love that Basil is always cheerful and he laughs a lot. We both laugh, and I think that's so important. And then if I have a project, he encourages me, and hopefully vice versa.
Okay.
So.
And Basil?
I'm actually, Wendy, is exactly what she says is what I want as well. We are one of the luckiest, or the very few of the luckiest people when you find the right partner. You know, we console each other, we laugh at each other, we cry.
Mostly we laugh.
But mostly
Together.
we laugh.
Is that when you look at each other?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. It's June 2024. Happy 90th birthday, Basil. We have spent 20 incredible years in Brisbane with our wonderful family. Our 3 daughters, Sancha, Nadia and Vanessa. Our 3 sons, Torben, Lance and Gary. And our 4 grandchildren, Kiara, Davin, Gabriel and Christian. Our children have always been such a blessing to Basil and I. We're extremely proud of you, Kiara, Davin, Gabriel and Christian. So my love is with you always, and thank you for an incredible life together.
Well, also I have had a wonderful life. My life has been so exciting in so many areas, and I know that I love you all, and I've had a beautiful family life, all my family, and God bless you.